at Vermont, brought to you by Obstacle Racing Media and VJ Shoes, which I'm sure we're going to see a lot of athletes in VJ Shoes today because of these slick conditions, and VJ are known for their ultimate grip and great conditions. My name is Rich Ryan. I'm joined by OCR legend and premier coach Bracken Crocker. Bracken, today the OCR World Championships takes place and takes pieces of many different forms of the OCR events across the world, and we get a highly competitive weekend of racing. This event attracts athletes from all over the place so we can get a great glimpse at who the best OCR athletes are in the sport. And today, we're going to crown 2 world champions, 1 male, 1 female, in the 3K event. So Bracken, in your opinion, what makes this event so special?
Well, you already touched upon it. It just pulls from everywhere. Throughout the typical race season, you have one venue, another venue, one company, another company. They just stay in their track, in their own lane, and do their own thing. And here we see obstacles that are brought to us from so many different race companies and venues. And we put it on a course that's reminiscent of many different styles of courses around there. And now, like today, you add in the rain and the cold. It's very European on American soil. It's kind of the perfect meeting ground for every athlete coming from around the world.
The weather is going to be a huge talking point throughout this event. It's cold. It's about 40 degrees without the sun. It rained a lot yesterday. It's looking like very muddy conditions. We talked about VJ Shoes in the beginning. We're going to see a lot of athletes out there. What do you think your go-to would be for your footwear in an event like this?
I mean, you can't beat VJ with the butyl rubber, but if you're not wearing that, you're just going to see deep lugs on the athletes. It's not the kind of course you can get by with just a standard road flat or even cross-country shoe, because metal spikes aren't allowed in the rule book. There have been years where you were allowed to use studded spikes. Those are gone. So you need something with deep lugs that's going to strap your feet down, because these descents are steep, the climbs are steep. Once you get mudded over, the obstacles are slick. Footwear, handwear, it matters today.
So outside of the weather, we have a really stacked men's field here. We talked about before, last year there wasn't as much international competition, and this is a very international race, the way the obstacles are run, the messy terrain. And the story up front is defending 3K champion VJ Jones going against who many would consider one of the best obstacle race athletes we've ever seen in Ryan Atkins. So what are some of the things you're looking forward to in this 3K field?
I'm looking forward to seeing them battle. Last year, VJ talked all year long. He doesn't care who shows up. He's showing up to beat Albin, to beat Atkins, to beat the whole world in the 3K. Well, Albin and Atkins weren't there last year, and VJ got his title. This is his first time going up against Atkins now. Albin's still not here, but Ryan is, in VJ's what he would consider his prime. He's figured out OCR. He believes he's figured out how to train. He's the reigning champ, and now he gets to find out, was last year because those guys weren't here? Or am I really, really the champ? And I cannot wait to see those two go head to head, because Ryan will not let him just run away with it like he did last year.
That's going to be an interesting way to see how things play out, how Atkins does approach this race. Many times we see him in the Spartan races and the longer races, he's able to kind of run his own race and then pick his spots where he knows he's going to excel. In a 3K, you might not have that luxury. Are you expecting to see them battle up that first big climb?
I don't know when the battle's going to start per se, but I know they will be near each other on the first climb. I don't even think they will be the leaders at the very top. Someone's going to get out, but at some point, one's going to make a move, and that other one's going to be in his hip pocket. I just don't see a gap building up early between those two.
And we've mentioned that the depth of the field is here for this 3K. I'm expecting to see some other athletes be at the top of that climb. Who are some names that you are looking forward to seeing how they kind of play out in this format?
Well, we have the reigning 15K world champion Ryan Kempson back here in better fitness than he had last year. And he was able to stick around in the 15K last year and then close, but he didn't necessarily have that high-end get up and go last year fitness. He theoretically has that this year, so he's going to insert himself. Sean Roberts, I know he's one of your boys. I think people are sleeping on Sean. You've got Yessa Dahir. You've got Martin Beckstrom. I'm upset we don't have Thomas Buell. I think that the U.S. was about to learn how strong the European contingent is, but I think that we will see several guys challenge for the lead early. What else do you think? Who do you got up front?
I'm glad that you did mention some of the international athletes. I think Yessa Dahir is going to be a real factor in this. He seems to, I was doing a little bit of research on him, reminds me of a young Bracken Crocker. Very athletic.
Handsome too. Huh?
Handsome as can be. He's going to really play. I think he's going to assert himself to seeing how his state power is. We didn't mention Rylan Shadegg, the North American champion in Spartan just a couple weeks ago, and DecaFit world record holder now. So we see he has that ability on both ends to really rev it up high and to be grinding up the mountains. How he's going to do on those obstacles and those technical obstacles will be seen in these conditions, but he's definitely going to be assertive early.
Yeah, Rylan is the great unknown going into this race. And this year is the year that I believe the Europeans have more of a say on the race. This rain that fell all week long, the mud that's going to be out there, the cold hands, European OCR is known for being technically proficient. They handle courses that are much more difficult than North American courses in terms of obstacle density and technicality. And every ounce of rain, of dew, of mud, of cold that hits this course, it tilts the balance in their favor. And it tilts it potentially away from someone who's never tried a course like this before, like a Rylan.
So it sounds like we have some updates from the course. Let's kick to our correspondent on the scene, Matt B. Davis. Matt, you mentioned there might be a bit of a delay for the start. Any word on what we can expect from the start of this 3K for the men's field? Turns out there is no word, but we do think that they're running behind just a bit here. So we're thinking that is just par for the course, so we can kind of keep going on this. And you mentioned a bit about how the mud and the terrain, and I think it's worth noting that some of the age group results are starting to roll in, and we're seeing a heavy contingent of international athletes at the top. Some of the athletes who we've seen last year who did so well are now kind of shifted down. So the international athletes are really here and racing well so far. Okay, Matt's back. Let's see what we got from our man down on the ground, Matt B. Davis. What do we got going on out there?
Good morning, everybody. Now starting at 1:15, the women's race is now starting at 1:30. Would like to take a pause. I would invite you to do that, although you could certainly talk a lot. Leave it up to you. And I know we're going live right now to the world, but quickest way for me to tell you guys.
Well, we do appreciate that, Matt. 1:15 starts, so it looks like we have about a 45-minute delay before the men are going to start there. So those watching can come on back. Bracken and I will let's discuss
come back
what
at
we
1.
feel like we're going to do here. Yeah, come on back.
Yeah, you guys.
If you
but you know
get
what?
Some lunch.
We're all going to come back at 1. You guys decide what you're going to do, but all of us are going to log back in at 1.
All right. So we'll have race coverage.
Actually, do me a quick favor. Give me a quick favor. Well, yeah, go ahead. I just want me real quick.
And what?
You guys hear me?
Can you let Josh in real quick? We just want to make sure Josh, our lead rabbit, is good to go. We had an issue. So, Josh.
He's in.
He's in. He's looking
Can you hear
good.
that? Can you hear them? Okay, we're good. See you later.
All right, we'll see you guys. No real word on why there is a delay happening. It just happens that this is there's just a lot of elements going on, a lot of technical stuff, a lot of athletes out there racing. I know the big age group between like 18 and like 45 years old of athletes just went only about 20 to 30 minutes before the pro field. So I'm guessing just taking time to clear the course. I think that that's fair.
Yeah. I believe I've competed at 8 world championships spread out over 3 companies, and not one has gone off on time. This is the kind of thing that they have to do their final check of the course, make sure there's no stragglers, make sure the obstacles are in correct condition, because at this point, they're about to have some athletes on there who are going to start trying things on the obstacles. There's going to be some leaping off the obstacles, but at the same time, every descent and every sharp turn on the course is just getting chewed up because people are taking the same route down. And so by the time this pro field goes off, yes, the hand grip situation gets a little bit more positive, but now the descents get sketchier and the sharp turns get sketchier. And there are several sections through this course where the fastest route down the mountain will probably be inaccessible unless you're a fantastic mud runner. And even if you're good at descending through the slop, it's often faster to hop off the path and descend through the scruffier terrain, because your shoes will at least gain traction on the ground and you can push off rather than just chopping your steps. So choosing the route down the mountain in a 15K, you have a little bit more leisure time. Your first descent, you can learn the mountain. Second descent, you can start trying things. And by that final descent, getting back down to the village, you can really rip and let it go. Well, in the 3K, your first descent is only about 100 meters long, and it's not similar terrain as much to the long second descent. So you really only have one chance to get it right. So you're going to see some athletes stick to one line and just bomb, and others who are going to be, if we get cameras on it, they're going to start on one line and then try another and then try another. And the whole way down the mountain, they're going to be just searching for speed down there. And on this course, it runs through the ski village down there. And what that means is that there are several overpass sections, not really overpass, but transition points, where you leave the grass and you have to progress along cobblestone or pavement of some sort. Sometimes you even go down some concrete steps and then back onto the grass. And every time someone comes through here, it brings a little bit more dirt, mud, grass, or just moisture onto those areas. And those areas, we've all experienced that. Wet pavement is slick, muddy pavement is even worse. And if there's turns around there, it's just less of a footing that you can trust. And in a race like a 3K, it is really, really agonizing when you've got your eyes wide and you're at maximum velocity, but you're kind of having to chop your feet going from grass to pavement, back to grass, or down these concrete steps. So all those age groupers have started to really dirty those transition points. And that's going to be something that we're going to see. Will we see an athlete go down? Will we see people who are generally fast in and out of things have to chop their steps?
Bracken, great job. I don't know what you talked about, but I'm sure the points were fantastic. We're back. We have the coverage starting at 1 o'clock, 1:15, brought to you by VJ Shoes and Obstacle Race Media. We are live on the scene down at the start line. Should be about 10 minutes until we get things going. So welcome back to the feed. Again, on the men's side, we talked about this briefly, but we're going to have quite a battle up front with Ryan Atkins versus VJ Jones. The defending 3K champion. Ryan Atkins is a multiple OCR world champion and 2021 Spartan Race world champion. So, Bracken, what do you expect out of these two as this race jumps off?
They're going to get out. There's not a ton of time for waiting in a 3K. Now, you can't win it in that first 2 minutes, but you can lose it there either by way over revving or by putting yourself in such bad position that you can't get back up. The first wave shouldn't have to deal with roadblocks on course or congestion, but just even like a wall here at the top.
So this is the initial wall.
Yeah. Yes. When you get further up and there's walls and you want to turn right and everyone's on the right side, you have to make that decision. If you didn't get out fast, do I swing all the way left and then come all the way back right? Or do I hold up a stride and get behind someone? So because of that, you're going to see people forced to get out a little bit hot, and both those guys are comfortable doing so. Atkins is known for being a super tactical, come from behind racer, but he's also probably the most aggressive first 100 meters of most races that he's in, which is kind of an interesting spot to be in, but it allows him to never get bottlenecked.
He seems to understand the race tactics when it comes to asserting himself early, that he's going to be one to watch here. Those look like several walls. We have a rabbit, Josh Reed, down on site who went through. It says there's going to be 3 walls. That looked like 5 to 6 right in the beginning off of, Josh is saying 4 there. So there's 4 different walls to go over, looking like it's more like a fire road on the first ascent. And we're expecting pretty muddy, nasty conditions where I'm sure when they start to turn and go up that first big climb, it's going to be mostly grass and mostly mud. So, Bracken, what do you think? How does that going to play into the factor of race tactics, this mud in the for this race?
Well, you can see the tracks here where it normally was veering off into the grass on the slopes, and they rerouted the course over on the right. That only helps the runners, the fast, the fleet of foot, the ones who do not necessarily want technical terrain. It only helps them. And so far, we haven't seen mud. We haven't seen it super chewed up. It seems relatively stable. And oftentimes on this really dusty, gritty stuff, a little bit of moisture kind of gives you a little bit more traction, just a little bit of moisture. I haven't seen standing water. I haven't seen slide out areas. So at least this first climb and descent, this kind of looks like a descender's dream.
So it looks like we can Josh up on course to take a look at some of the more technical obstacles. I'm sure Josh, he can't help himself from climbing, so he's going to climb all the way to the top. So we'll be able to get a good look at these athletes up there. We're going to switch closer to the start line down lower. We have a couple more people taking a look at what we got at the start line. We're going to see what kind of athletes, how everybody's looking. It still seems like it's cold. Looks like the sun is peeking through a little bit, which could definitely play a factor as this does kind of change things. So let's see if we can get a better angle. We have many people on site here. And we get to see some new Sanity athletes. We love to see it. Ryan Brzezlara, Jared Newby.
You asked earlier, who does this weather benefit? These East Coasters over here on the U.S. Contingent, and Noob Sanity in particular. These guys are not coming off obstacles. This is not going to be anything that they haven't seen every day in practice. They certainly are set up to do well here.
They're happy to see it. Jared Newby owns and runs an obstacle facility in central New York, Binghamton area, where there's a lot of high-level athletes. You see Ryan Brzezlara there, who was, I believe, 5th in the Savage Series. So we will definitely see some Noob Sanity athletes out there. And Doreen Klingberg on the women's side, you won't see them fail obstacles. You'll see them moving through those pretty well. We didn't get a great chance to talk about the women's field before we kind of went off of the feed. So on the women's side, we have Lindsay Webster up front, and her going to be pushing things at the multiple-time OCR world champion. She seems to be in good form, although in retirement. She has really cleaned up on the Spartan side of things and has been undefeated this season. Bracken, is there a window here where any of these athletes could challenge her, and how would they be able to do that?
Yeah, the window's right there. I think right from the start, Ulrike is going to, I would assume, push the pace. I think she has the running acumen to make Lindsay work and at least put herself in the race. I believe that Ida has the ability to obstacle herself into this race. And then I think you have a whole host of women who are banking on, if one of those top few screw up, I'm right there, because I'm not going to descend poorly. I'm going to climb fine, and I'm not going to mess up on obstacles. You got Magic Pagic. You got Amy, who's going to do well. You have a Chris Roglowski, who probably believes she's going to win this thing. I mean, why not? She's won almost everything you can win this year. So I think that this field feels like it's their turn to knock Lindsay off. I think it's on Lindsay to prove to them that maybe that time's not quite here yet.
As someone that's, say, an Ida, for example, who is a champion in her own right in the obstacle racing space, more on the European side of things, from a mentality standpoint, how do you think she would have to approach this to knock off the best that we've ever seen doing this in a course like today?
I think she has to come in with a big vote of confidence due to her domination at the European OCR 3K. And that was a flat race, and she won by a lot. And I think that her backstory, her historical record would say she's as good or better than Lindsay on the obstacles, and she gets outrun. So having that recent success in that 3K that was flat, knowing my running strong, I still have my obstacle game. I at least can be in the conversation, but she has to be ready for a couple body blows. Like, she has to know this isn't going to be a runaway. This isn't going to be a blowout. If I beat Lindsay, it's because I'm going to survive all of her best punches, and then I'm going to be there at the end to pull something out. If Lindsay gaps this field, they can't give up.
There is that initial climb where that first body blow will certainly come to Ida, and trying to manage that fatigue. So it might get to a point where she either needs to decide if she wants to fight to win this race and maybe get 6th, or fight for 2nd and finish on that podium. So we'll be interesting to see after a couple of times that she has faced off against Lindsay, how she will be looking into this.
Yeah, the climb, that 700-meter climb that happens, what is that, right about like 900 meters into the course? Is that about when it starts? Somewhere before the 1K mark. When that climb starts, if Lindsay's already in the lead, everybody's in trouble. But if we get to that point and Lindsay's playing catch up, we've got a race on our hands. These women cannot allow Lindsay to dictate the front of the race on that climb. because I don't think we have someone in this field, and maybe I'm not giving Ms. Evenson the due that she deserves, but I don't think we have someone that can do a fatigued climb with Lindsay and then descend with her down the backside as well. So if they're going to beat her, they at least need a cushion going into that climb so that she can eat it up, and then they can arrive at the festival grounds like, all right, let's start over. Race starts here, 500 meters to the finish, obstacle race, go.
And that is one of the superpowers that Lindsay has more than anyone else in this field, is her ability to hang on and be able to climb and descend at the rate that she can and still be able to go through those obstacles. Like if we had a runner, if there was an Emma Cook Clark in this field, even though her obstacle proficiency might not need to be where it is to compete well in this race, that would definitely shake things up and seeing how to get Lindsay in a fatigued state in this bottom part. But chances are she's going to be a little bit more under control than every other athlete in the field.
I'm very interested to see her strategy because she's not known as a fast starter, but she just works her way up into first place throughout the early stages of the race. There's not a lot of late stages of the race. There's one early stage, there's one middle stage, and then there's the finish. It's just such a short race. I haven't watched Lindsay race a 3K. It's been a year. She doesn't do short course work in between. We don't see her at DECA. We don't see her at stadiums. We don't see her do any of these local little short course challenges that exist out there. So I've only seen her run multi-hour races this year. I'm excited to see how does she go about doing this thing.
And that's one thing with this. It's a unique event that it is such a short distance. We see Spartan sprints, which are still up to 5K plus distance, and maybe not as many obstacles. So 3K is considerably shorter than that. If that was a race on a track, those would be different athletes who would excel there. The mentality going into most of these athletes who don't have a particularly expanded season to focus on something so short, how do you expect them to feel during this, and what kind of prep do you think it takes to do well in a 3K like this?
That's exactly it. It's what prep have they done? If you haven't done something short and spicy in your prep, even just in training, doing specific workouts, it smacks you right in the face. That first climb, your legs are going to feel like you've never used them properly before. So if these athletes haven't been adding in some sort of really, really anaerobic work into their efforts, they're in for a rude awakening. And that's a scary feeling for people who aren't ready. Engine matters here, but your ability to tolerate that deeply lactate experience, that matters just as much. This is kind of the 3K is like that meeting ground. When you look down to cross country and track, 3K is that perfect meeting ground between the long distance runners and the middle distance runners. And that's exciting here. Both sides matter equally. You've got to be able to get up and go, but you've got to be able to have some staying power.
It's a pretty miserable experience to feel that way. So we're going to see at the starting line here, it is a waved start. So we get about 8 to 10 athletes who are going to start in that first wave. And then Bracken, you mentioned it's one every minute or so after. With these guys in the front, we shouldn't see too much bottlenecking. I'm sure some athletes will get caught up in getting out a little bit too hard and will get chomped up by the remaining pack. But the waves format we're going to see, and we're going to follow that first wave through. We should see athletes like VJ Jones, Ryan Atkins, Sean Roberts in that first wave.
This looks like a narrower wave than usual. I'm only seeing 4 individuals at the front here, maybe 5. So for those viewing at home, this is your reminder. Every year, this is what happens. People are like, where's so-and-so? How did so-and-so not make the cut? Where are they? Where are they? Well, the fact of the matter is, if you're not absolutely the favorite to go top 3, it is a definite benefit to not even be in that first wave, because you just get dropped off the back right now. Okay. Right now you're off the bat. You go nowhere because all you do is watch the top 3 go up and run away from you. So if you can be in a different wave without maybe some of the same monsters, you can go out there and time trial this and have that motivation to be closing the entire time rather than being run away from. So if you don't see your son, your daughter, one of your favorite athletes out there, that is okay. It probably benefits them. And if they're really doing only 4 or 5 wide, this now feels more like a time trial and less like a race.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they just try to stack them behind. So we can look at this. It still looks windy. Those athletes are just standing there. There is not a lot going on right now. It seems cold. Doesn't seem like it's too sunny. Maybe the sun's poking out a little bit. But man, this is a pretty nasty looking start line for an obstacle race event. How do you think this, at this point, we're just waiting for the start to go off. We should be off in the next couple of minutes. It's right around 1:15 Eastern.
Look at those flags.
They are.
We can't even tell
moving.
which nations are represented because their flags are flying horizontally.
It says it's currently 45 degrees there, 61% humidity, and the cold wind, when it's humid like that, it feels pretty terrible. And the wind is only about 11 miles per hour is what it's saying, but it looks more than that from this footage that we are seeing here.
Yeah, it looks like it's being funneled straight down over the starting line.
So it looks like we may be getting some sort of start here. We have the men's starting first, followed by the females shortly thereafter. We're going to have cameras at different aspects of the course so we can give you the coverage on both of those races as they go. So, Bracken, let's go ahead and drop ourselves off of the screen here so they don't need to see us anymore. We can just watch this race go.
Yeah, we're going to try to give you our best cam look here. We're going to have rabbits who are set to run. I believe Faye's set to run the entire female race, and we have Joshua Reed set to run as long as he can with the men, and then we'll have a backup rabbit to be able to pick them up. So if our cameras start cutting out as we get higher up the mountain, hopefully our backup can pick up on the opposite slope and bring you down to the finish.
So we have elite athletes out here as our rabbits. We have Faye Stenning, who is a legend in her own right in OCR, Joshua Reed, who finished 5th at the Utah Spartan race, and Jess O'Connell, who's a literal Olympian. So we got some people out here.
That's right. We're going to get people who can stay with these lead packs. Joshua Reed just had a fantastic Killington performance as well.
He did, finishing second just behind Ryan Kempson, who will be fit and who we will see in this first heat here. Now, he might be someone that we might not be talking about enough because we haven't seen him on the circuit as much. He had a pretty dominating showing during the Savage Series earlier this year, which is going to be more comparable than what we would see in a Spartan race. So how do you think he'll factor into this? I would imagine that he is someone who would want to assert himself early. So what do you see Kempson playing in?
You know, I wasn't writing him off, but we haven't seen as much of him this year, and so he was off my radar. But the more I see of the course, the more I see of the conditions, and the more I think about the past where I've had to race that man, the more he's working himself up into one of the favorites in my mind. He's got the dog in him. Like, we know he's fast. We know he can descend. We know he can run technical terrain, and we know he can obstacle in any condition. But he's got that dog, that junkyard dog, where he does not care about hurting as long as it makes you hurt as well. And in a 3K, you've got to have some of that dog in you. I think that he is dangerous simply because he does not have any fear of how bad this could get.
And that's one of those intangibles that you can get in an OCR athlete that does separate the athletes who are finishing on the podium from those who are finishing on the top 10. And you'll see that with a Kempson. You'll see that with an Atkins. You see that with a VJ Jones from certain races, that they are here to compete and hurt and to really suffer, and they can do it better than everybody else. And even though this is a short race, like you mentioned, there's parts of this that are going to be an absolute dogfight, and Kempson's up for it. He will be ready. So I hope to see him early. I hope to see him be assertive so that when it comes down to that fight, that he has some punches to throw.
Mm-hmm. We haven't talked about Leon Kofed at all yet. He's one of the strongest obstaclers in the entire world. He's a training partner of Ida, who on the female side we've said is probably the best obstacler there. And he's been working back from a pretty horrific leg injury last year and trying to get his fitness back up. And it's been an uphill battle for him trying to regain that running fitness. But depending on how much he's gotten back, he could be in the mix as well.
How the web play a factor for racers like Leon and a lot of these international athletes who we mentioned before. The nastier it is, athletes like Leon is super strong, and he will be able to make up that ground on these technical and nasty obstacles. It will be interesting to see how things do play out.
We have people starting to move off to the side a little bit. They're clearing the course a little. Looks like we're about ready to roll here.
Yes, we are getting ready to get things going for the 2022 3K Men's OCR World Championship. We are going to crown a champion today. This is cementing and building legacies right before our eyes. So this is a very exciting race. It's a very exciting time. I can't wait to see how this thing plays out and what happens after that climb. We mentioned that on the early starts, we're going to get a couple of technical obstacles early. So we're looking to see how assertive the favorites are going to be early on and if they even have the lead before the climb, as we think they might. But looks like we are still getting ready to get going, and they're off. Here we go. So we can see a quick glance at Ryan Atkins as they head off to that first heat is off. So we have Josh Reed a little bit further up the climb. We'll see.
We saw Yessa Dahir there. He's in the orange singlet. He's going to absolutely be in the mix here. And I believe we had Martin Herkins there as well. He would have been in a white top, I believe. But Yessa, not well known over in North America, but one of the absolute monsters on the European circuit.
I cannot wait to see what he does against these Yessa and Martin are very young athletes to this. Mm-hmm. So this is without a doubt the biggest international competition that they've come across yet. So going up against these people, I'm sure they've seen the Ryan Atkins. They've probably followed VJ Jones for a long time to get them even into this sport. So we're going to get to see how it is when they meet their idols out on the course. But I think Yessa is going to have a great race. I think he is a competitive young athlete. So I'm hoping that this young talent does shake it up with some of the more veteran favorites that we've seen. So it looks like Emily's going to try to get around to that first obstacle gauntlet. So they had
Joshua will pick him up on that next climb, it looks like.
So the race starts on a climb. We saw in the preview that there's 4 different walls, 4-foot walls to jump over, which will just simply be speed bumps for these athletes as they ascend up. Looks like we got VJ Jones coming down into the first obstacle in this gauntlet piece here. This is Stairway 3.0.
VJ followed closely by Kempson and Atkins. And this is already a breakaway. VJ got out hot. Kempson's right on his shoulder. Atkins has a little bit of making up to do, but he's in range. There you have Yessa Dahir in the orange. We have Sean Roberts in that white and black Solomon top, and I can't quite see who's in
Leon. Leon with the red shoes and black on black. Everyone seems to be making it through this. There's Ryan Brizzalara coming down the stairway, and I think that's Jared Newby as well getting through. So we have a really strong pack of athletes making easy work of that stairway. VJ Jones being assertive and aggressive early on. Bracken, is he out too hot?
I can't even tell you. I want to say no. I want to say yes. What I know is that he's out with company. When we first saw him freeze on screen there, I thought, oh my goodness, is he out? And then I realized that's not a cameraman right behind him. That's Ryan Kempson. And the fact that Kempson's on his shoulder means that VJ's got a dogfight ahead of him, and Ryan Atkins is right there in range.
They're all right there. That was the fourth obstacle that we've seen. The 5th obstacle. So they made it through Pendulum to Sway. They're probably going through the rig right now, and the climb is going to start any moment now. So we'll probably be picking up on Josh's camera to see how that goes. But man, this climb is going to be interesting. If you're Ryan Kempson here, do you expect to see him make a push on this? Because if there's anyone in the field, though, Ryan Kempson probably feels he is as efficient through obstacles as VJ Jones, and he might want to make it an obstacle off toward the bottom of this course. So it'll be interesting to see if Atkins will assert himself up on this climb.
It's really interesting because Ryan is very confident in his athletic abilities. VJ also believes he's the best through obstacles in the game, and Ryan Atkins knows that he's also the best. We've never seen anyone close out a race like Ryan Atkins can, and the moment they get down that hill, it's closeout time. So you have 3 people with almost the same strengths. All 3 can descend, all 3 are fast, and all 3 are fast through obstacles. Unless we see someone move up and join them, they might already have written this race.
It will be interesting. If anyone has the wheels to get themselves back into it, it's Sean Roberts. He is the fastest athlete that I think we've ever seen in an obstacle race. And this 3K is something that he circled. He isn't even registered for the 15K, which is abnormal, I would say, typically for this race. If you're going to go run the 3K, 15Ks the next day. You might as well do them both. Sean Roberts has definitely had this circled and is ready to hammer. So I don't think he's coming out here to get a gap put on him in the first 4 obstacles without putting up a fight up that climb.
Exactly. Now, Ryan Atkins is one of those athletes that whatever terrain he's training on, his fitness translates pretty well to other terrains. VJ is an athlete who seems like in the past he's had to put in very specific work at certain grades in order to translate his fitness to those grades. Sean Roberts, my question is, how is his speed going to translate to this specific climb here? Because this is the climb where his speed matters. Are some people going to be reduced to power hiking here? And if so, does anyone power hike better than Ryan Atkins?
That is definitely the case. And we're going to see that someone like Sean Roberts, this is his second full year into the sport. So coming from a very high level endurance background, let's pause right now. Looks like we do have some athletes coming up. Is this VJ in the black on black virus?
This looks like VJ, and it looks like he is absolutely pressing the pace. Kempson right behind him. I think Sean has moved up into 3rd now, and Atkins in 4th, if I'm seeing that correctly.
I think so. So this is a tight race so far, and VJ is pressing. Look at him hammer up this. And this was the technique he did last year. He found himself at the top of the climb. Even though this might not be terrain that he is typically used to, he is ready to put himself out there and when he really needs to, and get to the top and hit these obstacles before that descent. I'm sure he wants to get away from the likes of an Atkins or a Kempson even going down. So he's really pressing it here. This is a great move from VJ. I think that he's playing this right. This would be the move that I would do if I was him as well.
Yeah, I think you have to. And VJ's a phenomenal downhill runner, as is Kempson, as is Sean Roberts for that matter. But no one, no matter how good you are at downhill running, no one wants Atkins stalking them down the hill. So you have to give yourself as big of a cushion as humanly possible in order to get away from that man. And you've got a carry coming up. Yeah, it's not going to be a super heavy carry, but any added weight in going back uphill favors Ryan Atkins.
That is true. I do love where Sean Roberts is here. We had mentioned him previously. He's right in the mix. And this is going up, which has been last year in the 3K. He didn't even really assert himself at all up this climb because it's not something that he's particularly strong at. But if he's right there with that crew going down, if he can just fly through, this is not necessarily a technical downhill. It's just a steep, muddy, sloppy one. But there's really not much. If he can take the brakes off and just hammer, I think he could be right in that mix.
And he can. Something happened last year. That is not Sean Roberts.
Oh, well, never mind.
Who is that? Well, back to Sean. Last year, something happened. He got hung up at the top, and he went from something like 7th to 3rd going down that mountain. He was a monster moving down, so he can downhill run. So Ryan Kempson has been passed by a European athlete here. Hope we can get a shot of his face. So we have VJ in 1st, an unknown European athlete in 2nd, Kempson in 3rd, and then I'm assuming Atkins in 4th.
Oh, we have someone chime in. Is that Rylan in 2nd?
It is Rylan.
It is certainly Rylan. Thank you, Tony Wade, for that putting in. So Rylan's right in that mix too. And this is kind of where we would think he would be in this race, going up that climb, really pushing it. We haven't seen that technical obstacles really start yet. So it looked like he was behind on the technical obstacles that we did see in the beginning. So he is hammering this climb. He's as fit as anybody in this. If full-on fitness is the name of the game, Rylan is going to be at the top there. So it's great to see him out there repping the USA, our guy out there from Utah. Great to see Rylan. Now it looks like they're kind of sliding into a power hike here.
Yeah.
So interesting to see if Atkins is able to kind of press into it.
I love 2 things about Rylan here. The first is that he went to the power hike early. It's so strange to have to power hike in a 2-mile race.
Right.
And yet you cannot fry your legs because you need them on this next descent. So he's going to have something, and he's smiling at the camera. He's not trashed yet. And we saw him out descend some of the best descenders early on in Kelowna. So he, in his mind right now, knows that he can reel VJ in on this next descent. But this is where we start to see things that they haven't seen before.
This is the Force 5 under rig, I believe it's called, over under. So VJ is going to go here. And this is a pretty technical obstacle if you haven't necessarily seen it, where it's nothing that you really have in a Spartan race. So VJ looks like he's going to make light work of that and get through it. Who else we see out here? It's looking like we saw a glimpse of Atkins.
All three are on there. I think all three are going to come off at about the same time, but VJ is doing what I said wouldn't be able to happen here, and that is move away from people. I said it was not going to happen, and oh my goodness, they've closed on him.
Rylan, VJ, all on Lagaff. Now, this is an obstacle, and that looks like Atkins right there. 4 American athletes out there. VJ's out, and this is where we start the descent. Kempson is in a great position here for this descent, right in striking distance, kind of leaving a little bit back an Atkins. So Atkins is gonna have to do some real work going down here, but we can see them stalking, and we have one of the best descenders in the game following these two in Joshua Reed. So we're gonna get some good footage of this battle.
Yeah, we are really lucky to have Joshua out there because he is one of the few people that will be able to hang with them, we assume, on this descent.
Oh,
and VJ took it a little wide there and went down.
Took a spill. Man, now Kempson's right up there challenging. This is some mud, and we talked about this before of how this course might play a factor into it, the conditions. This is the first time we're really seeing it.
Yeah, we talked with the female side about having to withstand some body blows. Well, VJ's had 2 already. His first section of Lagaff didn't move. It took him 2 tries to get across, and Kempson closed the gap. And then he took a spill on the descent. And those things are not fun to come back from.
This is a wrist energy. This is like a wrist roller, just kind of a hoist of just grip. So Kempson's kind of looking like he's doing a mixed grip. And here comes Atkins, who might do this in one single turn.
Yeah, this is a twist on life, I believe it's called. Rylan will be very fast on this. If you've ever done any of those wrist rollers in the fitness center in the weight room, there's a technique to it. And VJ's done this before, and Kempson's done it before, but VJ's in full flight downhill now.
It looked like Atkins put a little bit of space on Rylan, either on Lagaff or on that descent. So he is stalking this crew. Rylan's just going to have to hang on. I really want to see Rylan at the bottom of this descent with this group, just so he gives himself the best shot to this technical obstacle. We've mentioned it before, we don't know exactly how he's going to do down there, but he needs to be there, and it looks like that's his plan, is to put himself in position.
And as they say, every time you watch the Olympic track and field competition, 4 into 3 does not go. You have 4 absolute studs here, all vying for 3 podium positions. VJ's taking care of his part right now, but he's having some slip-ups on this because the terrain just isn't good. What's happening behind him?
Looks like we get a little bit of dry. It looks drier here as it goes down. So we get about I don't know. We got maybe a 600 meter descent to the bottom. And then the next thing we're gonna see is Valkyrie. Then we got skitch and a hoist down there. So VJ is still in a good position. Looks like the women's field is getting ready to roll. This men's race is exciting. So we're hoping that we can kind of get the coverage on both of it as we get to the bottom. Look at Josh. He's just in it. Josh is in second.
This is fantastic. Now, Valkyrie and the hoist are not going to cause any of these gentlemen to fail. Skitch, though, you hold on to 2 hooks essentially, and you have to slide down a pipe, but you have to cover 2 points of that. You have to traverse over it with the hooks and clear 2 bumps on the pipe, and that's one where you can get hung up even if you're good at obstacles.
So VJ's through, Kempson is through, and it looks like they have a clear 1-2 on here. So we're at skitch. VJ with the lead. You have to return those hooks back to the hanger, that it looks like. So it looks like VJ's through, no problems, got his hooks off, and we're going to see if Kempson's going to get through, which I would expect him to, just behind him. Barely the length of the obstacle, so they are in a tight one.
Got 2 to 3 seconds between VJ and Kempson. That is all the time in the world if you're chasing, and no time whatsoever if you're in first place. That race is not at all decided yet.
This is really going to come down to it, and it's looking like obstacle efficiency, as we said in the beginning. If anybody can hang with VJ, if anyone thinks they can hang with VJ, it's got to be Kempson. Kempson's got to be feeling confident here. He did this last year in the 15K where he was able to make up ground on obstacles. So now we have Canyon, which is a low rig to get through. VJ, a taller athlete. Let's see how he manages this.
Yeah, you have to descend down, traverse across. You can have incidental contact with the hay, but you cannot gain any advantage with the ground.
No problem on VJ's end, and he is out. This is our first look at the Fit Fighter hose carry. So it looks like it is And this is a place where they can make up ground. VJ versus Kempson, it seems to be a wash, I would imagine, with these two on this. Who's going to descend harder with that 25-pound hose on their back is to be seen. I think Kempson will try to make a move on this downhill.
Yeah, I hope so. Now, you can't help but hope that or wish for that second hose. Having two on this would be so fantastic. But either way, there's a little bit of a gap here, but Atkins seems like he has taken over from Rylan, and Rylan is still right on his shoulder.
For Rylan to get through, I mean, those aren't extremely technical obstacles, but he's never seen skitch in a race format before. He's never seen Canyon, and he's right there with him. So there's a full battle. Every position is still up for grabs for that podium.
This is just not what we expected. We expected VJ to get out. I really firmly thought Atkins would be right on his shoulder, but to see Kempson as the one who's pushing him here, this has to be disconcerting to VJ a little bit, knowing I'm not getting rid of this guy.
So this is our look at drop
maybe he
zone.
has.
So this is our look at drop zone here, which is a newer obstacle, which is supposed to be pretty challenging. Looks like VJ had no problem monkey swinging through it. This could be one where you could lâcher. The long grip of VJ really played a factor into that. And that is a great move that VJ just made. Looks like he held off or even extended through that carry.
Yeah, he did. And so far, these have been obstacles other than that Force 5 up or high-low rig, obstacles that you can flow through. We haven't yet got to an obstacle where you have to really be hung up on there for 20, 30 seconds on an obstacle. And I'm not sure if we're going to hit too many left at the end here. The 3K course has a few of the more flowy obstacles, so it's really going to be on someone else to make a crazy move.
So it looks like the women's field has started. We're going to stick with the men's side of things, having them both on the side. This is our Triumph, they're calling this, which is kind of Dragon's Back-ish, where you kind of jump to wall. Both very good, solid athletes, Kempson and VJ here. This is an athletic obstacle as well as a bravery obstacle. It's a little scary on here. Both are in this mix, so I'm thinking they're going to... Oh, Kempson is right on him. This is extremely close.
Yeah, Kempson, that's that dog in him. You can see his mouth. It is open. His teeth are bared. He's sending it. He's going for it on every single transition, every entrance, every exit. He's got that head lean going. He's a guy like a Ryan Atkins you really don't want hunting you at the end of a race here.
You want nothing to do with this. VJ, let's see what he's got. He's often not challenged in this way. One time we've seen a race be this close is when he beat Atkins at Big Bear. So he's through Littlefoot. That took no time at all. He may have put a little bit of gap. We only have 3 obstacles remaining. And they're both swinging obstacles of Urban Sky, Ricochet, and just a cargo climb. So 3 obstacles left, and we're going to get to see this finish. So we're going to stick with the women's here, and then we're going to switch over to, stick with the men's here. We'll switch over to the women's because this is a battle we have going on. So where can Kempson where can he make up ground?
Here's that position you were talking about. Do you kick here? Do you just empty the tank in between obstacle 4 to go and 3 to go? This is that moment.
There is no choice but to go as hard as you can if you're these athletes. They don't want to be doing that. They are needing to just empty it all out. You're getting on some pavement. Both these athletes, very fast, efficient runners. So I don't think there is a really leaning on either one. I think Kempson needs to really kind of pour it out if he wants to catch him, and he needs to do it now. I think he needs to catch him as soon as he can.
On the women's side, we have Ida first through the rig. We have Chris right behind her. Rose is halfway up. We don't know if Lindsay was through already. I'm going to assume no. I'm going to assume that Chris Rogowski got out hot.
And Ida doing what we said she would need to do is kind of put herself a little... Oh, there she goes, looking in like 5th or 6th. So here we come up to Urban Sky. Kempson just barely behind VJ Jones. This is one where VJ will fly through, and Kempson as well. This is both of these this obstacle for both these athletes is light work, and they will get through it quick.
And now we've got a foot race to the A-frame, to that cargo net. This is going up that cargo net is so slow and exhausting when you have someone right on your shoulder.
So we're gonna drop Emily off and just keep Josh on the screen because Josh is pushing his way through that. This is Ricochet here. VJ, he's through with no yet, and we have the cargo net. So it looks like he put a little bit of time on him on Urban Sky.
You know, he's really unreal. The fact that he doesn't usually have his pain face and doesn't look like he's thrashing and flailing out there, we forget how gritty and tough he actually is. This is not a race you can win just by being fast.
Absolutely not. Like we've seen before, this he had to put everything out there. We're going to get our 2022 3K champion. It's VJ Jones. What a race from VJ. That was fantastic push.
Now, keep in mind, this is an unofficial position because of the time trial format. There are several more waves that are going to have to come through, but as of right now, it's hard to imagine someone displacing these two gentlemen.
You ruined my call there. I thought that was going to be one that was going to be standing the test of time. Kempson coming through in second place. Man, did he put that out there. His fitness has to be at an all-time to be able to hang with VJ. At last year, it wasn't like that. It wasn't even close in the 3K. It was over before it really even started. Kempson did everything he could to keep himself in that race. And really, it looks like Atkins coming through in third.
Mm-hmm. And that's a pretty significant gap. And yet we saw that his obstacle proficiency just mattered. He's seen these things before. And I think that was the difference maker versus he and Rylan. Rylan learned today and Atkins executed.
Absolutely. So I'm thrilled to see and it looks like Sean Roberts coming through in fifth in this heat. Good outcome for him. Put himself in that mix. Looks like he pushed pretty hard. But for Rylan to put himself in this position where it's not necessarily his not too much experience in that area, doing really well coming through in fourth place there. We're going to switch over to Faye Stenning, another absolute monster of a rabbit. Josh Reed, what a job he did. He must be tired.
Yes, he did.
He must be tired.
That was a performance. He basically just ran 3K minus obstacles.
You know what, Josh, he's probably not even tired. He's probably not even
Josh
tired.
is a wild man.
Sure is. It's great to have him out there. Let's see.
Man, those top two gentlemen really, really impressed me. Ryan Kempson is eternally an underdog. I don't know what it is about him that we just continually underrate him. I know you didn't. I think Jack Bauer had him for sure top two. And maybe I'm guilty of underrating him, but he just
looks like a Ryan
shows
Brizolara
up.
coming through sixth. But Kempson does.
Yes. Yesa Dahir already across the line there in orange. Looks like, is this Leon coming by or is this?
Looked like Leon. Yep. Josh giving us that thumbs up.
It's either Leon or if I couldn't tell there, that might have been Beckstrom.
But yes, Atkins absolutely. Kempson really brought it today. So thrilled to see a race like that. It's probably one of the best OCR races that we could ask for from this type of format.
Now, until the women get up here, let's speculate a little bit. What does that mean for tomorrow? What do the results of this mean for tomorrow? And the women are here. Maybe we put a pause on that.
Put a pin in that. We'll talk about that next. We'll talk about that when that's over. So leading up this first climb, does that look like Ida? It looks like Rose is certainly in second.
No, Ida's in third. Rose has surged to second.
Annie. That might be Annie Doobie.
If Annie, yep,
it's Annie Doobie. And if this is the leaders of these climbs, we didn't get it. I don't know if we saw Chris. Could it be possible they could have passed Chris? And who is and you said Ida's in third? Maybe.
Yep, and then fourth is Lindsay. So Chris is either in first or fifth.
Annie Doobie, a VJ athlete. Thank you for VJ for sponsoring today's broadcast. But this might be a surprise to some. Annie has been assertive. Her fitness is there. She's had some ups and downs this year with some injuries, and this is her first time at this venue. We don't see her on East Coast courses like this, but she can climb. She is fearless, and she has probably the best grip out of anybody outside of Ida in this entire field. So it's great to see that she's assertive at the top of this hill.
And don't sell yourself short. This is a torque athlete from your group here, Rich. She's representing you well.
She is also representing Torque, and she has been doing this for a long time. The second place finisher at the Spartan Race World Championship last year, second place in this series. So she's no stranger to big races, but this format, it's a little bit different. But I expect her to do really well with her rock climbing prowess, her strength, and her ability to climb, and just her toughness. So I'm rooting for her.
Well, this is what we said someone had to do. They had to get to the start of this climb with a cushion on Lindsay. because Lindsay is probably going to descend better than anyone else through here. Some of these women are very solid descenders, but she is a world-class descender. And I don't use that term lightly in this case. This woman can descend. So Annie is doing exactly what is needed at this point.
That is fair, world-class. She's been putting herself in races outside of the obstacle racing realm and doing really, really well. So it looks like Rose is powering her way up. Who's directly behind Rose here, Bracken? Do we have?
I think it's Lindsay.
Oh, that is Lindsay. Yes.
Yeah.
You are
now
right.
Rose is running a spectacular race thus far. In years past, second climb, there's no way that an Annie or a Lindsay are in the same realm as her. They're usually ahead, and she is showing what all of her work. Living in Colorado for 5-6 years now, this woman has put the work in.
And experienced in this format, she knows that she's going to have to overextend herself just a little bit to be where she needs to be at the bottom of this course where it all kind of plays out.
Is that a smile?
Seems like a smile. That seems in Rose fashion. So in the men's race, at this point, it was VJ, Kempson. Oh, it was VJ, Ryland, Kempson, Atkins, I believe.
Yes.
So we saw the top four. The top four finished in the top 4 places already at this point, kind of how we projected. So it will be interesting to see how this women's race unfolds with such a tremendous descender like Lindsay Webster in this field.
Chris going 1st to 5th in a gap between 4 and 5 with her. Something had to have happened at the bottom there where she went through some obstacles. But Lindsay here is approaching power hike. They're in the power hiking stage now. And
Very muddy.
Annie's a great climber, but Lindsay is also a great power hiker. But look at that gap now. We're talking 30, 40 meters minimum. That's starting to be enough of a cushion that they might be able to arrive down together.
Depending on how we do at the Force 5 over-under, again, that's something Annie might have never seen before. And what else do we have at the top? Lagaff could be an issue because there is a leverage consideration for that. Some of these athletes might not be as tall, might not be as heavy. It's harder, that thing. It's cold out. It's wet. So that could really shake things up on Lagaff. We saw it even happen on the men's side where it took a little bit of time for VJ, took a little bit of time for Ryland. But here it looks like we are at the over-under. We have Lindsay on that obstacle.
Mm-hmm. And I believe Lagaff is the reason that Lindsay is wearing pants with Lagaff and also, help me out here, the stationary rig there. And Rose is hanging on too, Littlefoot, because more fabric means more surface area that is not slippery up against that very slippery out surface of Lagaff and Littlefoot.
We got a $1 dog donation here. Appreciate you.
Go ahead and take tomorrow off.
So it looks like Lindsay's going through. Did she fail? It looks like she's headed back. Do we have eyes on Annie? There's Annie coming in here. So Annie has good length to her, has great grip strength. Let's see if this will happen. Lindsay can't get that board to move. She is stuck. Let's see if
Annie caught Annie already. That means Annie redid it as well.
Well, I think Annie came up to this behind her. She may have caught her on the climb somehow that we missed.
I don't think so. I think we just saw 40 meters that Annie had, and Annie must have had to read. I mean, maybe she did, but that would have been an incredible close. Rose has done this obstacle before, and Ida, you can see, Ida's right back there in the mix. This is exactly what Ida needed.
Ida will be right back in here. She knows how to do obstacles like this. She's will have that ability to get up high and to pull herself through. It looks like Annie's coming off in second. Here we go down that big descent to that wrist roller obstacle, and we'll see if that plays a factor to this, because again, it's another leverage obstacle, another more brute strength. I don't know if the bags are probably different. I would imagine the women's rate might be. They are not this. They are not.
OCRWC never differentiates weights or heights.
Appreciate that about them. So we have
this
the descent here.
Exactly what the women not want, which was Lindsay leading as the descent starts.
This is certainly worst case scenario, but there are several athletes here who are up for it. I mean, Annie being one, and we'll see how Rose and Ida handle this descent.
Well, in Ida particular, I guess Rose as well. But I believe Rose believed that she could beat Lindsay to the top because Rose has that running ability and that fitness. But if you had told Ida at the start line, listen, you're going to come off a tricky obstacle at the top, 3 seconds behind Lindsay, I think she would say, all right, I'll take that.
Definitely. So this, and it'd be interesting this is what Lindsay kind of played into. I mean, if she wanted to be the top to that obstacle, I bet she could. So is Lindsay, oh, it's already up, and it looks like it's taken some time for these women to get these up. I mean,
well, this is so heavy.
It's very heavy. It's wet out. This is a very strange position. You can't really use your body to get that bag going like in a herd hoist. You're just grinding with your hands and wrists.
Yeah, and Lindsay put some serious time on Annie since the last time we saw her.
Looks like Ida's in third.
Yeah, and Ida's up in third. I wonder if Rose had another restart. Annie's off, but she's got to be getting in a little bit desperate here, knowing that Lindsay's got a free run at this finish line now.
We've seen Annie out obstacle Lindsay even in a Spartan race where the obstacles are not technical. Yes. So Annie has to be thinking about that. She has to have that in the back of her mind, like that she could fall off of one of these obstacles. We already saw her struggle on Le Gap. So down toward the bottom, some of these obstacles may be a problem. That one in particular, that drop zone where it's the long reach, the one that you might have to lâcher, that could be an area we really want to focus on. I think Annie will be able to make short work of that, and seeing how Lindsay does on that will be probably the differentiator in this. But in Annie's mind, she has to keep pushing so she can be around.
His camera's spinning in circles. Yeah, and you kind of touched on that there. Annie has one significant advantage and Lindsay has one. Lindsay's the best technical descender in the field, but Annie has by far the longest frame in the field. And where Lindsay is an obstacle completer, Annie could turn into an obstacle attacker, where she could skip rungs, she could skip rings, and she could really use that wingspan to try to overtake Lindsay in some capacity.
I agree. It's Annie. Oh, there we see Chris going through. Not sure exactly what place I was in. Let's see what Josh has on his camera. Oh, he has eyes on Lindsay, right?
Joshua back up
My
the mountain.
guy. What a
Look at Chris was flying through there.
And this, again, where it comes to a part of this type of descent where fear could play a factor. This is muddy. You can see that there's a lot of rocks. Look how she does do Valkyrie. So you do have to touch the top of this, correct?
I think you can skip. As far as the rule books go, now there may be a specific addendum for Valkyrie, but you do not have to touch any of the implements as long as you start where you're supposed to and you reach the finish.
So Lindsay made it through that Valkyrie first. Looks like Josh is going to be trailing her. See what we can get on the back side. We got the top left is Lindsay going through skitch.
She's taking her time here getting started.
I think that's smart, getting that lockout strength gear D. And this is a part we have to kind of go past a chain. You kind of have to make a transition here. Mm-hmm. And she's through.
And this is tough because you have no say really over who touched the skitch handle before you. There's a heavy sweater that came through there. You get up there and you start trying to grip your hands on that, you might be in trouble. Ooh, Ida has fallen back a little bit.
I don't know where Annie
Chris is trying to catch back up. So Ida is still ahead of Chris.
Annie was in front of both of them. We did not see her get through Valkyrie. We didn't see her get through skitch. Doesn't mean that she fell behind on it. We just haven't had eyes on her yet.
And there appeared to be someone right next to Ida on the far side. Someone in a dark head to toe clothing. I know that's not great insight, but Ida might have company who we assume is next to her for battling for third and fourth, with Chris potentially back in fifth.
We got the camera on top right. That's Lindsay going through Canyon.
Yeah, and this is a place where Annie might run into a little more struggle than the rest of these women just because of her stature. Her legs are going to be 7 inches longer than Lindsay's.
This looks like Rose getting through Valkyrie in fifth?
Sixth, maybe.
The camera
one behind Chris, whatever that is. Fifth. Okay, fifth.
So we see Chris coming through on the bottom screen there. We're not exactly sure where Annie is here. Chris could be anywhere from second to fourth. She has opened up down this descent here. Lindsay is at so Chris, I think, is in second, we're saying. Emily is confirming that she is in second. So we're not sure what happened to Annie Doobie.
They're saying Chris is in second now?
Emily, is that right? Toss up that 2 again? Nope, that's wrong. I am wrong.
Chris is in fourth.
I'm going to take Abby off of here.
To make Ida third, and Annie still... Joshua, if you can, I don't know if you can hear us, if you can scan back just to give us the gap from Lindsay to Annie.
So we're at the top of that climb, the fire hose situation. Fit Fighter looks like almost
Which is now
full length.
Yeah, this is now, she's got half of the hill between her minimum.
And that's Ida. That's Ida in
Ida.
second. That is not Annie in second there.
So this is that.
And this Annie in third. Okay, great.
So I wonder if she got hung up on skitch momentarily.
Potentially, or something happened on that descent.
Tiffany Palmer's come onto screen now. Oh, she's coming back for
Valkyrie.
Is that a retry?
I didn't see. She's going to be one of the better more obstacle racers that we have. Okay, here's Lindsay on Joshua's screen. This is the drop zone. This is the more technical one that we mentioned earlier. Let's see how she can get through this. Let's go big screen here.
And I would think that Ida and Annie have an opportunity here because this is a big reach for her.
She's really having to pull up. It looks like this swing is really going to matter. Can you kick the bells here?
You cannot kick, but you can lâcher and slap. She's not going to be able to reach it from that bottom one, though. Yeah,
she's going to have to kind of go up. Yeah, this is going to take some time. And do we have? And that looks like Ida is on the rig at the exact same time. And this is really she can make that.
It's deceptive because she seems like she's 5 feet behind her, but that could be 12 seconds on this obstacle.
That obstacle took her forever. That took
Lindsay a long time to get through. Yeah, she made up time on her. But that's blood in the water now, right? Even though Ida didn't make the pass, she saw there's still a chance here. She still is going to give me an opportunity.
That looks like drops on the just that. So yes, they are in sight, and with a couple more of technical obstacles going through, Lindsay passed the test of drop zone, something we've never seen. We have Triumph, which is the jumping kind of the dragon's back, and we're still back, so I'm not exactly sure where we are. It looks like Gerard coming through on Valkyrie, and
she made such quick work of that.
That's that insanity work.
Best believe they're
practicing that. I have Lindsay on the dragon's back. Keep calling it that. It's not what it's called, but it is called Triumph, which is you're jumping from. Oh, and that looks like we have Miranda Koplinski coming through somewhere in that top 10. Ida's not too far back. We're going to go single screen with Josh pulling up this battle through Triumph. Looks like Lindsay is already out. And now this is that stretch where you really have to pour it out there. You have that big long running stretch. You're going to get down onto some pavement where you're going to want to go faster than you would like to go. And we got Lindsay out in front.
This is the last time fitness matters on this course. By the time they hit the next obstacle, it is only obstacles to the finish. Or I should say, coming off of this obstacle will be the last time fitness counts. She's going to have about a 300-meter run where correct. She either puts this race out of hand or puts it out of reach, or Ida makes one last desperate charge.
She fell. Lindsay just went down on it. I don't think that female competitor on opposite side. I think that she needs to
Ida's on now.
Ida is now. Is she on? I don't see her.
Yeah, she's on the far right here. So Ida's going to come off about 4 seconds behind here.
If Lindsay gets through. If Lindsay gets through. And again,
maybe
this is
more like 5 or 6.
This is a European style, and Ida's through as well. It's more of a European style. Well, something like that in Savage, which Lindsay, we don't see a lot. And Ida might. We did not see if Lindsay got through. Josh, can you give me a thumbs up if Lindsay made it through and is in first place still? No, looks like Lindsay failed. We got Ida going through. And this is 2 very technical obstacles. I don't see a place where Lindsay's going to be able to make this up. It would take a Herculean running effort here, and Ida is not slow.
Ida had exactly the race that she needed to have. We're talking as if it's over and it's not, but Lindsay had a retry at the top of the mountain, which got her back into the mix. She had a retry at the bottom of the mountain, which got her back into the mix, and she's taken it from here.
This is monumental. If Ida can hang on to this, she's got to push she can. She has to be everything left in her, getting that charge going through. She has to be, at this point, when you get this type of boost from getting through an obstacle and getting in the first place, you almost don't even feel the fatigue that's coming through. She's running for her life right now, and we'll see if she'll be able to hang on coming into these final obstacles.
This is very interesting because on the men's side, we saw entirely U.S. dominant and North American dominant with Ryan Atkins up in there. And now on this side, we're seeing the European champion at the 3K distance looking like she's about to add the world championship to her resume. Now, if Lindsay made it through on her next attempt, then she is flying down, closing in on her.
We have Urban Sky coming in, and this is an extremely technical obstacle, and we got Lindsay right too far behind, so it's going to come down to Ricochet, which can slow people up. It depends on that. That looks like we didn't get a good look at second. You saw Lindsay on there?
Yeah, Lindsay's on the black tights and the blue shirt, but the gap is simply too big if there's no restart here.
Here's Ricochet. This is a slow obstacle, and it doesn't matter how technically proficient you are through. Lindsay is right behind her, so she is still pushing toward it. She's going to have to take some risks here, Bracken.
She has to, and it's the one, like you said it at the start of the broadcast, it's the one area that she hasn't shown to be the best in the field is flying through obstacles.
But the second wall, Ida's
she's and Chris Rogloski.
Is she on, Rick? Oh, yeah, she's on.
Looks like Ida's off.
Ida's off, headed to the vertical cargo. Again, I guess that's what it's called. Cargo climb. Very loose cargo climb. This is just panic. Just getting over that thing.
Pure panic. But so demoralizing. Very artsy rope shots there.
Josh just wasn't waiting for that. And it looks like he's going to get off the cargo first. He's going to be the first to cross the line in front of Lindsay Webster. This is absolutely monumental in that, being able to beat Lindsay in a race of this caliber. Chris Rogloski's right there. Very close.
And they both need to keep the gas pedal pressed down because this is, again, a time trial. If second place is gone, it does not matter yet.
So these are the first three that we're seeing in this first heat. It's reasonable to assume that this would be our top three finishers, but we will have to see the final results for that. But man, Ida, Matilda, Steensgaard coming through first in front of these American athletes, Lindsay Webster, Chris Rogloski, some of the best that we have in the sport right now. Lindsay's the best we've ever seen in this. Maybe not at the 100% pinnacle of her fitness and of her obstacle game, but 95%. She hasn't been. When was the last time she was beaten, Bracken?
2.5 years.
Was it?
And to be fair, I'll give her credit for being Canadian. She was announced as an American athlete just now, and I don't want to rile up those good-natured Canadians.
North American athlete is what I meant to say. This is basically a home course. Yeah. It's basically a home course for her.
That was an unbelievable battle.
That was so fun, and Ida really sticking it out, not giving up. She knew those obstacles were around. She was kind of in that mid pack. She was assertive early, but she was able to keep the foot on the pedal and executed when she needed to execute. So it looks like we have Jess over here at that's a male competitor. There's Annie coming through fourth to cross the line. Great effort by her in a race that she's unfamiliar with. To take it out that way, there must have been some sort of snafu that happened on her end. She's not far off of elbow surgery. She dislocated her elbow, and earlier this year, it's her first full season with newly constructed elbow. So these type of obstacles, we haven't seen her on those. So shouts to her for really putting it out there.
Ida just did exactly what had to be done. She had to make sure that she was in position to take advantage if anyone faltered, and she did everything right to be in that position. It's just such a well-executed race. And then when I look at Annie, I see Rylan. I see two newbies who just went out there and learned. And tomorrow's 15K is going to be a completely different story for those two, because they both know at this point, listen, my fitness is fine, but now I understand how to get through some of these things that I did not know how to earlier.
There's an element of experience that really does play a factor into racing, whether it is Spartan racing, Savage Race, the European style courses, that kind of gets better exponentially. The more you can go, the more different scenarios you can encounter during these races. And this is just an example of that, where if this was a Spartan race, Amy wouldn't have lost that position. Rylan probably would have been right in that mix. But it is a different thing, and this is what we like so much. We talked about at the top of this. It takes elements of all of these different races and really shows who is the most prepared for what to take on anything that they encounter. Looks like we have Rose coming through Ricochet. I think she will be 5th to 6th.
Lindsay's going to be kicking herself because of all the obstacles to restart. She fell off of one that's not super technically or physically demanding. I think that was more of a fatigue and a mental slip up than it was anything else. And that it cost her a world title.
And I'm sure in her pre-race prep, she was like thinking too much about how to get through an obstacle like Littlefoot.
Yeah.
Right? And have that happen is it's almost like you have to kind of do some mental gymnastics to get through and to keep pushing forward after missing it. It looks like she missed it twice.
And Rose is in a battle here for this position. We've seen Rose in this position against, I want to say, Rebecca Hammond down in Jacksonville, flipping over. No one's going to beat her down and off this thing unless she gets tangled up. And look at, she came off it backwards. She got that tangle up.
And this
will she run her down?
She might run her down. Oh my goodness. That is that.
I mean, she's a 209, 800 meter runner back in the day.
800. She still got those wheels. That could have been an international athlete, an Elricky potentially. Didn't get a good look at who the athlete was that finishing kick for against Rose. But it was a battle.
You don't want to come off an obstacle with 50 meters to the finish against Rose Wetzel.
No, nobody in the field. Nobody wants that on the male or female side because
no, they don't.
Hard to out her there. Looks like
this is Jareen.
Looks like Jareen. This is a great showing for Jareen of Noob Sanity, who would be finishing somewhere in that top 10. Looks like that would be 7th to 8th coming across. Great showing for her. 20
seconds behind Rose Wetzel.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's great for her. We saw her in the Savage Series. I believe she finished their 4th. Bracken, correct me if I'm wrong, but we've seen her on these type of courses in the past.
So what we saw here today is if you ranked let's say the 10 fastest male runners, who spends more time on obstacles than Kempson and VJ?
No, nobody in the fat. Nobody who's faster. You know, there might be somebody like a Leon, or for example, but he'd probably be ranked somewhere in the 20s to 30s in terms of running.
Yeah, and on the female side, if you rank the 10 fastest women, does anyone spend more time on obstacles than Ida?
No.
No, and so what we saw here is being fast didn't guarantee that you won. And being great on obstacles didn't guarantee that you won. But you couldn't win without being great at both. And
yes.
And it was isn't that exactly what we want? This is what we want out of OCR Worlds. You've got to be great at both.
That's the general complaint about both sides of the coin when it comes to obstacle racing. We have Savage versus something like a Spartan versus something like a Toughest or something that's European. It doesn't get all of it. And today it looks like it got all of it. It had technical running. It had a lot of climbing. You needed to be fast. You needed to be obstacle proficient. This is what OCR, this is what we should strive to be. And this is what's so great about this event.
We just saw a contingent cross the line. I think we had Ulrike Evensen. We had Tiffany Palmer. And did you see who that third person across the line was there in that group?
Miranda was in that. Miranda Koplinski did finish.
Oh, Miranda Kilpinski as well there, yes.
I did not know where she came through. Let me see if I can pull up some of these results.
I think she was right behind Tiffany, who was behind Ulrike. Unless that wasn't Ulrike. I only got a brief glimpse.
So, yeah, I mean,
Chris.
Yes, Chris really.
Chris continues her world championship podium march.
She sure does. I mean, this is last year she finished in 3rd in the 15K and was 4th in the 3K in the much less deep of a field, I would say. That's fair. So for her to come out and to end up on that podium is pretty impressive here. So I'm trying to pull up the results. Let's see if I can pull these up on the men's side of things and kind of take a look at them because they are up. So I'm going to pull that up the screen. Is there anything else you want to see on this screen here, Bracken? Do we still want to see these athletes come through, or do you want to pull up some results? Looks like we got Matt on the field there, giving some interviews for later. So let's take a look at some of these race results on the men's side of things. Are you seeing? Bracken, are you with me?
Yeah, if you can you throw that finish line cam back up? I
Sure
believe
thing.
that's Emily's.
Sure thing.
Yeah.
Sure thing.
And then Joshua's, Emily or Joshua, whichever one you want. And then the other one, let's throw up a finish results.
All right. Can I share half the screen for this? You just want to do half and half? Oh, can't really see.
Yeah, can we try Josh's actually? I'm being a demanding co-host here.
You sure are. You really, really are. And that doesn't look that great. So let's pull up Josh's.
Oh, yeah.
As we're still seeing people finish. Okay, that's a good call. And
oh, we just had someone go down coming off the A-frame. Those are loose nets there. I wonder if they're going to tighten them overnight, because they're only going to get more stretched out.
They are very loose. So is there a better angle that we can look at this? You can't see the. Let's see if I can do this over here. A little flipperoo. No, that looks terrible.
All right. Well, let's just go to the results and we'll chat them through.
See it through, because we want to talk about some of the implications for what it looks like for next week as well, or tomorrow, I should say. Pulling up the men's results now, we'll still get a couple eyeballs on this finish line. So we had VJ. These are more of the official results. I mean, I believe that all of the waves should be completed through the men's field on the completion side. So it looks like we had VJ.
We saw our first shakeup here.
What's that? Do we have somebody up here?
Yeah, Leon and Samuel
Hebert. Well, Leon was in that first heat, I believe.
Was he?
Saw him.
Oh, yes, he was. So Samuel might have been the first shakeup.
A French-Canadian athlete. We haven't seen much of him this year. He's one of the bigger, stronger athletes, but also really athletic and really good through obstacles. So coming through the top 10 finish out of the slower heat, I should say, is pretty impressive on his end. So look at top 5. I mean, all North American athletes, 4 of them are American. So that's interesting. That's not how I would have projected this to happen. I thought there would have been a little bit more of a shakeup. Our first European-based athlete, Yessa Dahir, who we had mentioned, finished in 6th. What's your takeaway from that, Brad?
Well, I think that you will hear the European contingent wish that they had run at 7 a.m. when it was sloppier and nastier. Yes. This course really looked like it dried out well. I spent some time while you were gone chatting with Matt about how the descents and the turns were going to get chewed up nasty. We didn't really see that. This course really absorbed the water well, and you don't often see that with OCR and trail races. So it played cleaner than we thought it would.
We saw that little bit of a slip that VJ had going down that one descent that did kind of come around a corner, looked a little bit muddy, but it looked drier by the time he got down to the base of the mountain.
Look at down here in 10th place. Manuel Defoe, 41-year-old male.
All right.
And then in 12th, Jesse Bruce, who's also apparently 41. I didn't even know, Jesse, you were getting up there.
What a beast. You know who likes to see that? Kirk DeWint.
Kirk DeWint likes to see that. So VJ Jones, Ryan Kempson, Ryan Atkins round out the top 3. 19 seconds behind Rylan Schadig in 4th. Sean Roberts, only 10 seconds behind him in 5th. And then Yessa Dahir is the first international finisher, followed by Leon Kofed and Samuel Hebert.
Which, Yessa was a European champion. So it played out kind of that way. We weren't sure how he was going to do mixing it up with the North American-based athletes. So, again, that could just be not being familiar with racing these guys. I mean, VJ, Kempson, Atkins, they've raced each other dozens of times. They know each other. They know their moves. They know when to be assertive. Yessa was thrown in there fresh and held on pretty well for a 6th place. I would say that's a big win on his end.
It is. And then rounding it out after that, Ryan Brizolar in 9th, Manuel Defoe in 10, Martin Herkins in 11th, Jesse Bruce in 12th.
Martin is only a 20-year-old athlete. I think he probably is one of the younger competitors in this field. I believe this was his first elite race. He won his age group division in the European Championships. So great showing finishing in 11th.
That's really impressive.
Beating athletes like a Jesse Bruce, like a Jared Newby, Alvaro Vasquez, really good, solid athletes here. And as we scroll down, we get to see the names like Sam Osborne, who was 15th here last year, and it's a much deeper field now. Ethan Brown, who we see on the Spartan Race series. Johnny Mares, who we see in a lot of hybrid stuff. So there's
if you
our
don't mind
guy.
here, let's take a look at this top 25 and see who's all on, who 25 years or under. How many do we have in there? Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wait. Go back. I was counting the wrong numbers here.
Yeah.
Go to 25 here.
25. So
all right,
this is the number here. 1. Ethan Brown's a young.
2 in the top 15, but then in the top 10 itself, you've got 2 in the top 4. So seeing that represented, and then a 20-year-old in 11th, this isn't the typical OCR finishers. Usually it's everyone's in the 30s or 40s finishing. We've got a little bit of youth coming into OCR worlds now.
Did we lose those screens? I think we lost our cameras, and that's fine. We're just talking. Let's see if the women's. It looks like in the chat here that the women's results are not up yet, and they're just very unofficial. There might be some glitches with the timing chips, so let's see if we can have any results on the women's side of things. Okay, this does look to be correct. Jareen is not in the correct position here, so it looks like there are some mishaps on the side of the results, but we saw Jareen come through a little bit later than that.
Was she confirmed first wave? I thought she was.
I don't know. It says over here the wave. It says wave 8, so I believe that she was
okay.
Wave. Okay. So it looks like we're still waiting for athletes to kind of finish in and kind of shake out. We only have 11 confirmed finishers right now, but it looks like the top 2 are correct, with Ida and Lindsay. And then
we're missing Annie. We're missing
Annie. We're missing the 3rd place finisher of Chris Rogloski. So Julie Hartes, that was an athlete who we had spotlights in a previous podcast, Race Brain podcast, and Amy Paycheck, another very strong obstacle-based athlete who we'll see in the Savage series more than in the Spartan. Doing really well here.
Rich. Wave 8 is just the pro weight. That's wave 8 is then broken down into individual because all the men were in the same wave 7. So I believe that Jareen was not in the first wave.
Yes, we have some cameras confirming that is not the case. Let's see, and if that is her time, I mean, what do we think Chris's time was?
Well, there's a 3-minute and 46-second gap from Lindsay to Jareen.
That's the thing, right? And that is where
how many filter down into that spot.
So we might see.
Regardless, she beat Rose. Rose was wave 1. So who finished right around Rose? Who was Rose sprinting in with? That wasn't Ulrike.
No, it wasn't.
Ulrike, I should say.
I don't know, because it should be 1 second different, unless that was someone from a different heat, unless it was more results that we're waiting for. Let's go ahead and refresh this and see what we got. There's a couple more people in here. Sarah Beckstrom.
Oh, that was Sarah Beckstrom. So
how about it?
Sarah Beckstrom, as of right now, is in 4th. Did we see
we're missing?
We're still missing Annie. Yeah. So we can't put too much stock in this yet, unfortunately.
No, we can't. But we know the top 3 because if didn't finish in front of Chris, we can almost confirm the podium is Ida, Lindsay, and Chris Rogloski, but we don't know how the rest of that top 10 has shaken up yet.
We do know that it's much more international than the men's field was.
Yes.
Our
the top 5
was
sure.
US, Canada, US.
Yes.
Whereas here we are Denmark, Canada, US, Sweden.
Great race by Jareen. Oh my goodness, that's fantastic.
It really is great. Cracking 30 minutes on this course, taking out the likes of a Rose Wetzel, even beating
Ulrike,
people Ulrike is world class. Tiffany Palmer has proven herself at every level.
Amanda Nadeau
is no joke.
Amanda Nadeau, I believe, was 6th in Tahoe one year. So
yeah,
very strong. We're going to see Jareen in Rocks next week too.
Oh, fantastic. Well, Rich, this OCR Worlds weekend, whenever it kicks off, it's a fantastic moment. But this got kicked off with some races that lived up to the legend of this race series.
Let's come back on screen. Hey,
here we are. This is the way you would want the weekend to start. You got the weather, that cast that ambiance over the weekend, and the course still played nice. You had such a battle. There were no blowouts. We thought we were maybe even seeing a blowout on the women's side, and then Ida just obstacled herself right back into it. It was everything as a fan of the sport I could ask for out of the opening races of the weekend.
Absolutely. I mean, we want something to be exciting. We want it to be close. We want to see the obstacles play a factor into these races, and they absolutely did on the men and women's side. It wasn't just whoever's fitness, who's the best climber, who is the best descender. You needed to be well-rounded, and that's exactly what we got. So I was really excited to watch this kind of play out and how it would then factor into the 15K tomorrow. So let's take just 2 or 3 minutes to talk about that on the men's side. Bracken, what do you think now? Like all these athletes who we saw in the top 4 at least, and then Sean Roberts is a kind of a maybe on the 15K. We'll be back tomorrow. VJ, I'm sorry, is not going to be back tomorrow. So 3 out of the top 4 will be back in this race. What do you think? How will this change things now that they've gotten to see the course a little bit? They got to see the terrain some. How is this going to change things?
Oh man, I think that this tells me that Ryland's for real. I mean, we knew he was for real, but that he's not just a power-based obstacler. I mean, if you're going head-to-head with Ryan Atkins throughout an OCR Worlds course and he only puts, 19 seconds on you, you're technically proficient. That was really the final question that needed to be answered by that young man, and he answered it. Yep. And he's going to be significantly better tomorrow than he was today. So I think he is a factor longer. I bet Tyler Veerman wished that he had been out there and got some hands-on obstacles, but he'll be a factor tomorrow. But I think more than anything, Ryan Kempson comes out of this with some confidence to him for tomorrow.
Especially after an impressive showing on that Killington course, which isn't going to be too dissimilar. I don't think it was as cold. I don't think it was so sloppy for the Killington race, but the terrain is going to be very similar. Tomorrow we have a bunch of climbs, ascents and descents. It's not just a one big, huge climb like we'd see in like a Big Bear or a Tahoe, 2 big climbs. We're going to see 5 to 6 ascents during this. So I think that terrain in this race is going to play into Kempson's favor for the 15K. He's got to be confident.
Has to be. And did you see that comment that popped up from Britt? Ryland just finished a 72. He's a firefighter paramedic.
Ryland has some Chris Rogloski in him where I don't think any of that matters.
He's young.
When he was in Mexico, he basically slept on the side of the road, hiked up a volcano, went out and got 5th place or something like that. So he's fine. He'll be good to go. So that on the men's side, yes, we'll see that we'll introduce Tyler Veerman on the 15K. We have a couple other athletes just doing the 15K as well. We have off the top of my head, Bracken, can you recall who else is going to be joining that 15K field here?
I don't remember anyone doing just 15K.
Aaron Newell, we'll see, who can absolutely play a factor into a course like this.
Why wasn't he here on this one?
There was some sort of scheduling conflict, I believe.
Is that what it was?
I think so, because we've seen him do really well at OCR World Championships, finishing, I think, in the top 5 in the past, right?
In terms of sending in on obstacles, that matters in the 3K. He could have been an absolute force here today.
And this type of terrain, I mean, this is basically his backyard in terms of the terrain and being sloppy, being slow. We don't know where his fitness is typically, but he can usually outperform his fitness on a course like this.
He's a gamer, and he doesn't mind getting out hot. So he'll be out hot.
He will certainly be out hot. So add Tyler, add Aaron Newell to the 15K. Those are 2 athletes that we'll definitely see up front. I'm hoping Sean Roberts opts to come back in so he can kind of throw his hat into the ring, because it seems like he's working on his obstacles, working on his climbing, and he was definitely in the mix there. So that seems to be the main additions to the 15K. But
tell you what, that Atkins family, they are going to have a little bit of fire tomorrow morning at that race start line. They both have a little bit of a monkey to get off their back after this. I do not think that they assumed that no one in their family would have left this 3K without a championship, that they would have got blanked on this. They both made the podium. I mean, for almost anyone else on the planet, top 3 as a couple would have been like the best possible scenario, but they're so great at what they do that I can't imagine they're going to show up tomorrow like, hey, whatever happens, happens. I think they're going to be out for blood tomorrow.
Absolutely. Of course, that you would think would play more into their favor. We did forget Logan Broadbent. He will also be doing the 15K.
Oh, yeah,
tomorrow.
Logan.
For that. Yeah, so he will play into the factor. Play a factor into that race as well, as he finished second in the 15K last year. It's also worth mentioning there are a lot more technical obstacles that will be into the 15K tomorrow. We'll see the Gibbons, which is kind of a staple here, and we'll see where else, what other kind of obstacles will play into this. Yeah, a couple more rigs. We'll get a classic low rig out of OCR World Championships. We'll see Skull Valley, which is another one that is a staple. So that could play a bit of a factor, but it's longer, slower, it's more grindy. So it's not as important as something like today.
I'm excited to see Annie tomorrow. I think we got a taste of what she can bring to the course. I think that Chris is obviously going to have a great day, but I'm excited to watch the European athletes. I want to see what Ida has done to her 15K fitness since the last time we saw her. She was so good today. Can she parlay that into another great performance tomorrow? And then a few of the other women, Sarah Beckstrom and Ulrike Evensen, are they going to have that bounce back performance? Not that Sarah needs to bounce back. She did fantastic, but could she do even better tomorrow?
With the likes of Ida, she definitely put herself in a position to be uncomfortable and to strike when it matters. Will she have that staying power for 90 minutes of a course? Will she be willing to do that after coming off of it? Absolutely. We're going to see Annie. She's going to be assertive. Chris is going to be up front. And Lindsay's probably just going to stalk and hang around them for a while until she gets a good couple of descents to make her move there. So that'll be really interesting on that 15K side of things.
Yeah, and we don't know yet who came out of this healthy or dinged up. These are the type of things that have the ability to, you wake up tomorrow and you're like, oh my goodness, what's wrong with my shoulder? Or we don't know who rolled an ankle or had something go. So based off the information we have, it's going to be a cracker of a race tomorrow. It's going to be a banger, Reg.
So let's take one last look at these 3K results on the female side. It looks like we're getting some more of these athletes kind of rolling in. It's Ida confirmed to finish, Lindsay in second, Chris Ogoski in third, and then we have Annie sliding into fourth, Sarah Beckstrom in fifth. Great result for her. Jareen looking like sixth. That's again, we've raved about this finish. Really, really strong. Then as we scroll down, we see Miranda Koplinski coming into 11th. Alicia Keeker finishing in 12th. A good result by her very strong obstacle proficient athlete. Elizabeth Murray, who we've seen finish basically 12th to 13th in every race that she races, finishing in 13th. So, and then as we scroll down, it seems to be where we're at. Hannah Carter coming through in the top 20. So that's where we are right now in the results. I'm sure things will continue to kind of shake up, but it looks like the top 5 to 10 is pretty solidified at this point.
Tomorrow's going to be fantastic. Like you said, adding in some of the more technical rigs. The reason they don't add these to this short course is because if you get so technical on rigs in a 3K, there's just too much backup. And backup isn't the worst, or having these retry lines. It's obviously not good, but in a 15K, the course can absorb it. In a 3K, where every second counts, you can't have athletes running in and having a line of 20 to retry an obstacle. So it's just not, the flow of the course doesn't allow that to happen. But tomorrow, for anyone who left today thinking, oh, I wish there was more technicality, you're going to get it tomorrow.
We're going to get tomorrow. We're going to see some exciting obstacles. We're going to see a lot of the same athletes get to go to battle again. This was really fun, a great contest. It's what we wanted out of a world championship event. So make sure you're checking us out tomorrow at bright and early. The race starts at 7:45, I believe, and the elites start in the beginning of the day. So we might not have this backup like we had about an hour delay. So make sure you're checking in with us early, 7:45 Eastern time. For the 15K men's and women's. Bracken will be joining me once again. And again, thank you to our sponsors, VJ Shoes. Saw a lot of athletes out there kicking butt in those. And thanks to ORM for putting this on. Bracken, it was a pleasure.
Pleasure too. If you're tuning in from overseas, thank you so much. and make sure to get up a little earlier and watch the Berlin Marathon tomorrow.
More racing.
Racing all Saturday. Saturdays for foot races.
All right, we'll talk to you guys tomorrow.